Welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? All right. Yeah. We got the Bong Boys in the house. Got a lot of people in the house. Thanks for everybody coming out tonight. We were going to do this event in November, and we had like 12 people signed up, so I'm glad we waited. Good things take time. I know a lot of you guys wish things were moving on a little faster, wish things were moving faster point blank, but we're here to bring the community together. We're here to allow for questions to be asked. We're here to have people who have seen this market or seen markets like this roll out before. I will say I don't think any market has rolled out with the approach that Minnesota is taking. I think ultimately we have about 6 markets if you include munis, home grow, independents like you guys, tribes, MSOs. There's a lot of cannabis in Minnesota, and I know everybody's ready to get started. I'm Stephen, founder of Canna Connect. Here we've got Spencer, creative director and advisor at Canna Connect. We've got a stacked panel tonight. We're going to keep your attention for about 60 minutes. Everybody from accounting to security to compliance. And if you have questions, submit your questions using the QR code. Thank you to those who already registered and submitted. Besides that, we're going to get started with Luis Vallestros, Director of Retail ID at Metrc, and give it up to Spencer. He's moderating tonight.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, thanks everybody for being here. As Steven said, I'm Spencer. You come on up, Luis. Yeah, you're good, dude. Come on in, bro. You're good. I'll take that mic from you, Doc. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate you coming out tonight. As Steven said, we're Canna Connect, and I say this at every event that we have, as long as I get a microphone. And I say Canna Connect is not just a 5+ group of the humans that say that our LinkedIn profiles say that we work at Canna Connect. It's all of you. Without you, Canna Connect is not a real life thing. So it takes people like you coming out and hanging out with us and coming to these events. It's really helpful, and we appreciate you more than you even understand or know. So thank you. Tonight is all about helping Minnesota licensees get clear, practical guidance, and feel more connected. And we're going to help you answer these questions and keep it tight. 60 to 90 seconds, hopefully. We're going to keep it moving, and we're going to move through a few rotations of different humans that are going to come up here this evening. So you're going to hear different viewpoints. Like Steven said, you can scan that QR code. I checked it from the back of the room with your phone. You can zoom in with your phone. You can scan that. You can submit questions there if you have any. We know this is a hot topic tonight. There's going to be great energy in this room, but we'd be here all night if we were doing the hand raise thing and asking questions during. So fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, we're going to save questions till the end. So please submit questions at the QR code there, and Stephen will bring them up to me at the end. We can keep going through the panel. So, yeah, let's rock and roll. Let's start with Luis Vallestros.
There we go, man. It's like
from Metrc.
100 points, yeah. Like everybody always struggles with Vallestros. They always see that double L and they're like, "What? How do I even pronounce this?" So they go with Luis Rodriguez. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Luis introduce himself, and then go ahead and we're gonna get into a little Metrc 101. So let's rock and roll, dude.
Awesome, perfect. So thank you so much, Stephen. Everybody, thank you so much for coming in today. I mean, we have a full packed house of people that seem eager to understand how to do things correctly, to be within a regulated industry, and to mainly, I want to say, make sure that no one else comes into the profits of a regulated market, like other folks that are playing in the other side of the line. So from my point of view, I've been with Metrc for 7 years, which feels like a lifetime. I've seen the bad, the good, the ugly, the pretty of Metrc and everything in between. I started my journey with Metrc managing similar to here in Minnesota, like a state that was about to go live at the time. So really focusing on California, Alaska, and Nevada. And the reason why I mentioned those 3 states is because Minnesota is actually like a coalition of regulations and settings that mirror Alaska, Nevada, and California when I first joined. So over my period, even though this is my very first time here in Minnesota, 2026 is going to be my focus for the Minnesota market to really make sure that we spend more resources and be here with you guys on site. It's actually given me all the tools to, come in here to a state, see tribal nations. I already know it. Microbusinesses having 3 licenses, I already know it. Adult use versus medical use having 2 separate licenses. All those different challenges, things that we've learned over the years is really why I'm here, to spend a little bit more time. And I know we can't do hand races because it'll take forever, but I will be here somewhere drinking a couple more drinks, and probably enjoy myself over there. If you guys want to come and just ask more Metrc one-on-one questions after we get over this.
Great, appreciate it. Yeah, so let's just dive right in. Let's hit the Metrc 101 class. Thanks for being here, class, showing up today. Nobody was late, except for Gus. Gus, you're always late. Just kidding. Love you, Gus. Let's start with the first 30-day checklist for new licensees. Hit us.
Perfect. So yeah, I would say within the first 30 days, once you guys get your actual license number, and I saw a table over there was talking about some of these things. As soon as you get your license, you need to contact the Metrc support team to make sure that you get your credentials and you get access to the new business training immediately. That is going to make sure that it ramps up you guys and gives you all the tools to take all the trainings that you need to start. From zero, how do I create a package, to how do I adjust a package after I made an incorrect sale on Thanksgiving in 2026. All of those things are going to be covered in there. Very quickly, modules are going to be easy for you. I always see people across the country do this, and specifically in California. They forget. They go 30 days without requesting their license. Now they're out of compliance by the state. So even though we cannot give you guys access to like the learning tools ahead of time, we absolutely can spend some more time coordinating with you guys one-on-one support for training. So first things that I would say within those 30 days, contact Metrc support. If you do need one-on-one support, if you want to jump in with somebody from the Metrc team, chat Heater, and I'll share his contact. He's going to be the best person to help connect and schedule those sessions, similar to more private sessions like this to dive into Metrc.
All right, let's talk about common mistakes that you've seen, see, and maybe how to hopefully avoid them.
Avoid them? So that's a good one. I would say the first thing that we got to make sure to avoid mistakes in the future is beginning inventory. So when you guys get that beginning inventory period, make sure that you have all your strains, all your items, everything that you will ever produce, even in 2045 that you think you will use, add it into your system. Once you go through that beginning inventory period, you are now into what is called a closed loop system, meaning you cannot bring things from thin air. You cannot just say, I was doing random R&D and I discovered this. Everything has to either be approved by the OCM or come through another licensed business in the market. So that was usually the biggest mistake I see people do, is not taking advantage of those 30 days for beginning inventory and then just bring everything that you think you'll ever use in day one.
Let's talk about data hygiene.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fun topics of the scrubbing. I would say, yeah, Metrc is your system of records. So it is internal. It's there with the intention for you to make sure that you can leverage it almost like an audit system for your inventory at the end of the day. But it's not a system that's going to prevent you from doing things. So some of the things that we see, folks, is after the fact, you record all of your sales post, or you do it through your point of sale system. Now you potentially have packages with negative quantities. How do I do this? How do I continuously fix this? Well, you got to make sure that you're doing inventory audits between your point of sale system and Metrc consistently. Like almost every night, almost every single week that you guys are going through all your inventory, making sure that everything adds up. If at any point you see a discrepancy, contact Metrc support. All the support team lives in the Bible Belt, so whenever I'm feeling down, they bring me up with just their attitude. They're like, hey, Luis, how's it going? And they're going to make sure to give you guys some Metrc cleanup, making sure everything looks exactly the way it's supposed to be. Because these practices are going to be important. And then we're adding as many comments as possible, and when we're making a package adjustments and anything in the system that really requires or gives you the opportunity for comments, add as much as you can. A lot of times we'll see state agencies just look at a note and say, oh, perfect, this is nothing that we should be worrying about or not a red flag. They're just doing business as usual and they made a mistake. Continue to move on.
All right, in your experience, how can licensees use Metrc to enhance their day-to-day operations?
Well, I know a lot of people usually think of Metrc as like this burdensome system that I hate and is going to be terrible and I have to use it. And there is some truth to every single just management system inventory out there that you will have to do so. Metrc gives you the flexibility that is fully integrated with all the fabulous folks that we have here in the panel today, and with a lot of third-party inventory systems. So if you really don't want to use Metrc, there's ERP solutions, there are other systems that can help you automate your practices and your day-to-day, so you really don't have to sit there and do all those admin clicks in Metrc. Don't do package adjustments manually. Use a CSV file, use an API call, so you can do adjustments at the thousands levels instead of doing it at one individual line, because that gets tedious and tiresome, especially as you continue to grow your operations.
All right, let's talk about a local item. Tribal store transfer process and who owns which step. You can take a drink.
Okay. This is my favorite part of the event. I cannot drink any alcohol at all, so I really like this Minnesota style.
Cheers, brother. Thanks.
Perfect. So we're talking about tribal instances and tribal transfers.
Yeah, tribal store transfer process and who owns which step.
Perfect. So yeah, right now you guys, I know this is a frustrating point for everybody, to not say everyone around the country and for us as well, is tribal instances. To some more context, Nevada and California are the only two other states that had tribal instances as well. Minnesota decided to keep everything separated from its tribal instance and then from the metric instance. So right now everything is done through the external transfers. So if you guys are sending product to a tribal nation, you would do an external transfer, record all the information. It goes into that staging license that the OCM has, and then the tribal instance from their own metric separate system, they would do an intake inventory there to just make sure the information can get tracked and there's visibility within the agency. Now, the biggest thing I can let you guys know is towards end of year, if not a little bit sooner than that, we're going to make that functionality a whole lot easier. So for those that have been using Metrc, it's just going to be a new transfer type where you will be able to transfer from Metrc to a tribal instance and back. And it's going to be the first time in the country. You guys are going to be the first and only ones getting that functionality. And I think that really sets you guys up for different markets. And potentially when there's interstate commerce opens up eventually in one day, Minnesota will be the first state kind of position to take advantage of that functionality. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Sweet. So before we sat here, as Stephen had mentioned, we were going to throw this in November. A little short on the attendance, so I'm glad we got a packed house tonight. Again, appreciate all you for being here. We did have people submit questions to that QR code, which is great. So here's one. This is going to be great for you, man. You're going to love this one because this is really granular, right? This is about the timeline for CSV templates to support bulk functions for tribal nations metric, if any.
Yeah. Right now, in terms of the CSV functionality, yes, we're expanding a little bit more on it. So if you're a tribal nation, if you have seen the other side of Metrc, the idea is to enhance what we have in there. So for you guys to be able to take advantage of like a queue, for example, you submit all of your transfers, all of your package adjustments, all of your actions that you want to do through a CSV file, submit up to 10,000 lines, go home, forget about it, and the system will actually start processing every single line of data at a time correctly, and it will spit out a file that's incorrect just so you guys can resubmit that. Currently, you most likely, if there's an error on the file, you have to redo the entire transaction, resubmit everything, and it can really ruin somebody's Friday afternoon when they're there trying to update things. So that is the goal of what we're trying to do, and take a look at all those changes coming really for us in Q1 of 2026. I'll give you some more certain dates, probably at the end of this conversation, as I don't have them fresh top of my mind, but probably look at middle of February, if not a little bit later, for some of those capabilities. And then for us to also expand on Tableau reporting for you guys. So Tableau being added into that side of Metrc for allowing you guys to kind of mix and match with reports and CSV uploads.
All right, that was our Metrc 101, so hopefully you paid attention, class. Thanks for being here. Let's get into compliance and data foundations. So, Luis, how would you suggest to build a culture of compliance without slowing down operations?
I think it really starts day one when you guys are hiring your employees. Take advantage of the Metrc trainings. We do have the Metrc Learn and the Metrc Portal, really. What I've seen other sophisticated operators do is that they make everybody take that training, and then they throw them into the sandbox right away. Go ahead and make all your mistakes. Go ahead and play now here. Within this first 10 days of you being in business, go ahead and play everything. Make all the mistakes. Check in with support team to make sure compliance items are checked in and you're moving smoothly. Because at the end of the day, once you build in that culture of, hey, I make a mistake, the business is potentially getting shut down, we're all getting affected within the facility, really kind of creates that unit of community and for all of us to be doing things right, hopefully, as you guys are investing. So, keep in mind that other states outside of Minnesota do shut people down for 3 months at a time if they do make compliance mistakes. So that is something that we see other more regulated markets eventually get to.
Talk about realistic reporting cadences for smaller teams.
So for smaller teams, I would say, is making sure that you guys are pulling those reports on a weekly basis. There's going to be other wonderful technology tools here for our partners that can make that reporting even a whole lot easier. A few clicks of a button in a point-of-sale system, in an ERP system, in a CPA system potentially, kind of give you that flexibility. But it's still important that you guys are building that, ingraining that consistency of on a weekly basis, we're pulling reports, we're doing audits, we're making sure that we're staying ahead. So you guys are building those scalable processes out.
When metric data doesn't match internal inventory, what's the best way to resolve discrepancies and try to avoid penalties?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is just going to be leverage the metric support team. It is a system of records at the end of the day, so the more information that you can put in there, the more comments, the more it's going to save you. If I can take a quick story, somebody in Alaska entered into their report comments for package adjustments that a bear had eaten half of their, farm, and nobody believed it, but they had recorded a metric, they had video evidence, and then the actually agency had to relocate the bear to an entire different state because the bears have a pretty good nose. So those are the type of things that, even though it sounds trivial, it sounds dumb, just making sure that metric is the source of truth, whether we like it or not, whether in the future we all like it or not, is going to be that system. So just take advantage, enter notes, make sure that you guys are staying consistent there.
Awesome. I love it. All right. This was an audience insert from one of the original questionnaires that we sent out. Microbusinesses handling of medical versus adult use tracking when operations are separate. Talk to me.
Yeah. So I think we'll be working with the OCM to make this a little bit simpler for everybody. So hopefully everything in the future will live under one license. That this is what we see in more mature markets. This is what happened in Nevada. There was 2 separate sets of licenses, and everything got condensed under one. For right now, nothing in your operations changes at all. If you do have medical, and if you do have a retail facility license, none of your workflows change. If the inventory, again, it is out of compliance, or if you see there's a discrepancy, metric support is going to do that digging for you. Like, we have folks that have been trained for years to do almost like a forensic analysis in your account and figure out, okay, this one unit came out of this one random package, but now you got to readjust a few more just to get the inventory back on track. So take advantage of it. Don't try to do it yourselves. Leverage the supports that we have.
All right. At the beginning of that, you had mentioned something about the OCM, and I know the simple answer probably could just be YES, yes, but is there any consistent, and what is it like, consistent communication between the OCM and Metrc?
Yeah, so it's important for everybody to know, like, when we do implement a new state, we make sure that we set regular cadences with the state agencies for meetings to go over settings, flags, industry feedback that we get. A lot of the feedback that I will get from today, I'm actually going to be sharing that on Tuesday with the agency as part of our bi-weekly cadences. So we do reports on, how everything is going, feedback that they've received from you guys, new features and functionalities. Like, we hear tribal transfers as our number one pain point for everybody, and that's where we're expediting that functionality to make sure that we're coordinating with the agency. So at the very least, on a weekly basis.
All right. Well, everyone give a round of applause for Luis. Thank you. You're going to stay.
Yep.
Luis is going to stay up here the whole time in case we're going to bounce back and forth. But I want to bring Brytany Melville up here, president of Forte. Come on up, Britt, and everybody give a round of applause to the lovely Brytany. We're going to move into the operator perspective. You can go ahead and grab that mic. Okay. We're going to move into the operator perspective. So we're just going to keep chugging right along. Cool. Great. Let's talk, Britt. No, you know what I want to do, Britt? I want you to introduce yourself. Tell people who you are and what you're all about.
Hi, everybody. A lot of you familiar faces I've met. My name is Brytany Melville from Forte Operations. We are a dispensary consulting firm. Been in the industry for about 8 years. Opened the first store in Canada with Munir, who's somewhere here. Brought the California boy down to like minus 40 degrees Celsius weather and rolled out retail in Manitoba, so just north of here. I realized I didn't want to work for an MSO at the time, so jumped ship after about a year and started my own consulting agency to help mom and pop shops and smaller independent stores open and operate and go toe-to-toe with big MSOs and, get the same level of white glove service, resources, discounts, network. Because, all of us on the consulting side, we started as budtenders. That's kind of me in a nutshell. Expanded retail in Canada, and we've been federally legal over there for about 8 years. So jumped down to the U.S. to help roll out retail here, and here I am today. So I just hit my 100th dispensary about a month ago of opening. Thanks. And if this gives you any like peace of mind, I myself am still learning. Every single operation, every single entrepreneur, every single milestone roadblock is a new learning. So I guess my biggest piece of advice is everybody's so friendly here. It's similar to Manitoba. Ask people for feedback. Ask people for, their experiences, go into other dispensaries, ask to talk to other owners. Jacob is here somewhere in the room who is, super amazing at supporting other licensees as well. Richard's in here somewhere. So knock on the doors. And also, Canada is, not too far away. We've been operational there for 8 years. So go and tour dispensaries and ask budtenders, ask them how they like their point of sale, ask them what moves, and their feedback, and just really gain knowledge that way. That's, my piece of advice.
Awesome. Thank you, Britt. So we're in the operator perspective right now. So let's go ahead and ask, and Louis, you feel free to chime in, if you guys can bounce things back and forth. But Britt, talk to me about training frontline staff to avoid costly errors.
Definitely. I always say front load your time at the beginning. Even if somebody does come from the legacy market, the roadblocks and issues in the legacy market, in my experience, are a lot different. You don't have budtenders having to deposit $30,000 of cash into their own bank account and transfer it to an owner. It's a lot different. So really front load your time into training your team right off the jump. I always suggest to dedicate a head of compliance right off the hop. Sometimes it is hard to identify who that person is before hiring. However, within the first couple weeks, you're really going to notice who pays attention to detail, and compliance is their area of focus. And then on top of that, I would say train the trainer. So if you do hire, another agency to come in and support with training, make sure you're setting a couple people up for success so that they can carry on that metric training and compliance training. Cannabis retail does have a pretty high turnover rate, so you want to make sure that you have a subject matter expert right from the jump to be able to support, because as an owner-operator, you're going to be, going around, getting pulled in every which direction. So having a direct point of contact who you can really trust can help support and own compliance is a really great idea from the jump.
I would piggyback on that really quickly. Just choosing a metric person or a head of compliance is going to be very key when you have agencies coming in or you have things that you need to develop. So to Brytany's point, I would say once you develop your SOPs for what you want the staff to actually do, after the first 2 weeks, make sure that the person who's now going to be your head of compliance or your metric person review those SOPs and then really weave in the little nitty-gritty of metric and make sure that everything is documented for posterity.
Excellent. Let's expound a little bit more inside the frontline staff concept. We went down the avoid costly errors, but then also how to turn data into better purchasing decisions. Can you talk to me about that from a frontline staff perspective?
So how to turn data into better purchasing decisions. So in terms of analyzing the data to make, okay. Yep. So most of the point of sale companies, Gus is in here from Dutchie. Dutchie has some really fantastic reporting to essentially help forecast your sell-through pace. So for example, if you are getting low inventory on a certain SKU and you haven't internally flagged it yet because you're sitting at 350 SKUs, Dutchie has really key reporting to be able to identify that for you. So making sure that in addition to head of compliance, your operations and product individual is also keeping an eye on that so that you're proactively reordering and knowing what's moving and what gaps you have in your inventory selection. Obviously, at the start of any industry, any market, you're going to buy and stock what you can. But as you get to understand your inventory flow and what your customers want, it's super important to leverage those sales reports and to select a point of sale with good reporting so that you can keep on top of that analysis.
Great. Which tools and logs do you need for your final plans of record?
So for me, and I hope you kind of can piggyback and agree on this. I like to cross all T's, dot all I's. Obviously, Metrc and your point of sale, you're going to have your digital records there. You do need physical records as well. So a visitor log for your vault on the dispensary side. So for example, let's say you do have an electrician that has to come in and go into the back. You have your digital log from your fob, but then you also have a physical log that lines up and cross-references with that digital log. In addition to that, you're going to have like a product and a green waste log as well. So theoretically, it should line up with what you're what you're including in Metrc, so that you can have a hard copy to cross-reference as an actual log that lives in your vault as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us is the mantra of Metrc is making sure your physical inventory matches your real life, your digital inventory. So that's exactly the same vibe that we continue to tell people.
Definitely. And just a point on that, what we've noticed in Maryland is Metrc, gets to understand when your deliveries are coming, and what's really important on the retail side of things is to get that delivery into your point of sale and received soon, and not just, leave inventory sitting there because the sales floor is really busy. So as you start to understand your delivery schedule, your store manager or whomever is in charge of scheduling should overstaff to ensure that that area is 100% staff are allocated to receive it into your system right away.
That's where we get those stories, the day after Thanksgiving or 420 is like, I don't know how we ended up with 10,000 units negative on a single package because we were just going through a SKU, we didn't double check. So I would say that's very important. The things do move fast, so make sure that you're doing things correctly ahead of time, and then just double checking everything virtually.
Yeah, this flows right from the inventory perspective. Team inventory audit best practices.
That's a great question. Every dispensary I find does just things a little bit differently. Personally, I love having scanners. They are, like, some products are a little bit challenging to scan. If it's like a really thin pre-roll, sometimes the scanner is a little bit tough, but it really decreases your misgrabs, which what those are is, let's say, a transaction comes up and it says a 1 gram Blue Dream that you sell, and somebody, it's the exact same, like 1 gram is in the exact, or one, like a single pre-roll is in the same package as like a 3-pack pre-roll. It's so easy to do a misgrab, especially if you have a couple hundred SKUs there. So if you do have scanners, making sure that every time you're selling a product, it's being verified by a scanner, honestly brings your shrink down so significantly. So that's on the scanner side, but on the inventory audit side, I suggest, to what you mentioned earlier, have a daily inventory of each category. So, one day you're doing pre-rolls, the next day you're doing flour, the next day you're doing concentrates, and then doing a full weekly inventory for cannabis. On the accessory side of things, if you do leave your accessory inventory, because it does take a lot more time, but if you leave it and only do it like once every couple months, it's going to take a lot longer. So for accessories, I suggest at the beginning to start like at least quarterly. So then you're just getting everybody in the habit of, making sure things are a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I do have one, just to piggyback on that, an annoying question is, who here knows about retail ID at all? Wow, a couple people. Okay, awesome. So one of the things that Brytany is talking about in terms of just functionality to help you make sure that you guys are on track, is retail ID is a new feature in Metrc. No additional cost, no additional anything, but it will prevent any misgrabs because each individual unit is serialized to itself. So it basically prevents any budtender at all at any point from grabbing and making an incorrect sale or just having to do a Metrc cleanup in the future. So that is functionality. It's a Metrc is just native to the system. So if you have more questions on that after, please come talk to me.
Awesome, great. Let's jump into real quick staff planning. So in terms of team member responsibilities, how do you ensure all areas of compliance are covered?
That's a great question, and every dispensary is probably going to be slightly different depending on your sales volume and depending on your involvement as an owner-operator. We see some owner-operators are basically the general manager, and they're 40 plus hours a week managing the stores. Some are focusing on other endeavors and not really involved in the store. So I always suggest have like one main leader in charge that is going to be there at minimum 40 hours a week. And if you as an operator are committing to be the general manager, you have to kind of take on that additional responsibility, which also includes HR, right? Like you're going to be the direct point of contact for all of the other leadership, all of the bud tenders, but then you also have to run and grow a new operation. So definitely a store manager, general manager, that's kind of, similar title, an associate manager underneath, an inventory manager. Typically they're at like the same salary as an associate manager, and then a couple key leads. Those are also, members of leadership that can open and close, cash in, cash out, and then a combination of full-time and part-time bud tenders.
All right, awesome. To cap the operator perspective off here, we have an audience question, which was, what's the correct metric process when you process flower or bulk edibles as a service for another licensee?
So when you are doing like a co-packer or if you're doing white labeling, for example, there really shouldn't be like any specific or outside of processes or expectations unless you're taking in a brand that has specific SOPs for it. I know certain brands like cookies have specific SOPs that they send out to the operator. Otherwise, you just have an agreement, obviously, please do so outside of Metrc, just making sure that all parties are very clear in expectations and SOPs outside of the system. But Metrc-wise, you transfer them their product. You can do it under an affiliated license if you need to, because that will contain the agreement that you guys are doing, and that will give you the flexibility to just continue to leverage without having to pay taxes on the transfer out there if they're just doing the processing for you or the co-packing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for ripping through that operator perspective. That was great. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Britt. And you're going to stay. And obviously, Louise, you're going to stay. I'd like to bring up two more friends. Let's bring up Scott Moazzen, Managing Director of StashStock. Come on, Scott. And then also let's bring up Cat 7, Cultivation and Operations Consultant. So come on down. The price is right. Yeah. Right over here. Shit. All right, welcome. I'm going to have you guys, Scott, go ahead. You're going to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you first.
Oh, jeez. Hey, guys. My name is Scott, and I'm from StashStock. I really like coming here. You guys, I like Minnesota. I like the energy. Everyone's got the gleam in their eye. Let's fucking go. And what StashStock does is, and I get to share the stage with you two, this through three. StashStock is a seed to sale. So we are on the cultivation, on the manufacturing side, the POS sides, the dispensary side. They get all the good-looking people, but without our side, there is no that side. So we work with the growers and the processors, and we really focus. One of the things that sets us apart is we focus on the RFID portion of it. And so yeah, we are in Minnesota now and 25 other states, and happy to be here.
Awesome, thanks. Kat, tell us about yourself.
Hello, I am Cat 7, a.k.a. Catherine Franklin. A little bit about me. I consider myself from legacy to legitimacy. I came from the legacy market and decided to turn my legacy into operationally. So for that, I love working with people to try to take their ideas and their brands from the street to the retail and have your dreams come true. Being in genetics for the last 15 plus years, then went into operations, learning all the way from seed to sale, tracking, tracing, you name it, and turn that experience into consulting. So if you need my help, you get my help. If you don't, you don't. But either way, it's all about the plant. Love the plant. She will love you back. Give to your neighbor. Be good to each other. Minnesota, we've got a great culture here and a great, team. Keep being true to her, and she will be good to you. And that is my biggest thing for Minnesota is please just be kind and have a great time. It's going to be a ride, and we're going to go up, and we're going to go down, and we're going to go back up, and we're going to go back down, just like the pounds will be. But enjoy it, and be blessed that we're actually in it together.
I love it. I love it. Spread the love. Spread the love, Kat. I'm all about it. That good energy in our plants, in our gardens. This section here is going to be all about cultivation plus inventory tech. So, Kat, I'm going to pass it right back to you quick and say,
All right.
give me some cultivation touch points from clone or seed to harvest and what clean tracking looks like day to day.
Besides a tedious pain in my ass, it is cultivation, in my opinion, in manufacturing, is one of the biggest bottlenecks, and I'm going to say the biggest bottleneck in operations is Metrc. I love it because we have to have it, but it is one of the most tedious things that we have to do, and anybody in the world, in any business, has to do. But having your track and trace is the most important thing to keep your license stable, to keep your doors open, to keep doing what you love, and to keep your investors happy because you didn't lose the license, right? So making sure that you use something like StashStock and always scanning from that seed to that clone to that veg phase to the flower phase, and don't move her from those areas without doing a scan, without logging what room she's in, what vault she's in, wherever she is. Those are the biggest things that you're going to do. And when you leave at night, make sure you don't leave anything open in Metrc. If there is something there, because tomorrow morning, that fire is going to be there. And you're not going to have time to finish out what you're doing. And you're going to have people calling. If you're retail, you're going to have manufacturers and cultivators calling you saying, can you please close out that batch? You know, my manifest is still open, and they're going to get red flagged. So really making sure that you touch that plant just like you do at home, you know, going into cultivation, that you work that process of paperwork and have SOPs. Like your worker bees don't need to know track and trace like we do. But what they do need to understand is have that piece of paper, and that's why we create SOPs, is step by step of what they can do. Here's your daily task. Here's your tag. This is where you take the process. Grow with her with that tag.
Absolutely, and I would say, piggybacking on that, we do know Metrc is not pretty either. So we are working on rebranding it and making it a little bit easier. So kind of coming into the middle of next year, we'll have more like a marketplace where you guys will have access to a whole lot more holistic set of functionality. So,
and I've heard it's a lot prettier, and I don't down it at all. It's just, it's something you're not used to. You know, from legacy, we're not used to making sure our dime bag willies on the streets are coming in and checking in and they got batch numbers, right?
Absolutely.
It just becomes something, but once you do it after a while, you're going to get used to it. But just know, coming from where a lot of us come from, we don't follow rules, okay? Guess what?
There were rules? There were rules, Kat?
And so that's why Metrc is hard, because it's like, oh my gosh, if I could just skip this step, I'm going to get to the end product so much faster.
Yeah.
But then we come in for a walkthrough and we miss that step and we have a $100,000 fine.
Process. Live and die by it. Yeah?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I got to go to Scott. Benefits of RFID. Talk to us.
Well, so the tags that you're required to use on each plant and each package already has RFID. So it's what the state uses to do audits really quick, to come in there and verify what you have on hand, whether that's a plant count, whether that's your package count. And so, you know, the benefits are, I mean, you can go from time is one of the biggest benefits, focus on other things. The second is time equals money. So now you're focusing on, you know, saving money and labor cost. 3 is risk. You're mitigating your risk because, one, I'm not touching the plant. You go in there, you know, you go in these facilities and I get mad about it because I got no hair, but they make me put on a hair net, beard net, Tyvek, you know, booties and all that stuff. And then so with the scanner, you can go in there and you can actually manipulate the data to stay compliant. So one is the risk of the touching the actual product. The other is the compliance, and right now, you know, most of the states, again, we're 25, so I've seen this, you know, over and over again, but the first year, the initials that run the state, the OCM, I believe, in the state, they're going to be lenient, because they're also learning, right? But over time, if you mess up, they're going to fine you. And so, utilizing this RFID technology to not get fined. So it's like, mitigating your risk. And so it's not adding anything to what you're already doing. It's just piggybacking off the technology that you're using as is.
How do you choose? Just walk us through your process of how you could help somebody choose cultivation or manufacturing their tech stack.
There is, in this industry and in what we are doing, a lot of people come into, I want to get a job and I want to work in the weed industry. And they do that, and there is a lot of turnover. And so you want to look at a stack that is easy to adopt, easy to use. The second thing is that I run into a lot of people that they signed a year contract and they don't know how to use it, and they're upset with it, and now they got to pay this provider. They can't get out of it. So when it comes to picking that stack, one, do you know how to use it? Two, is it something you can train someone to use if you're not there? And the visibility you get into it. So it's really, those are the things that I care about. This isn't about me, but my whole thing is with anything is, do I get a free trial? Do I get to actually see what it's like? Do I actually touch the system before I commit to doing this for a year? Because that's something we see all the time.
Yeah, something that I think we would say in terms of like horror stories from Metrc in every state is exactly what Scott just mentioned, is people, getting sold on a dream or functionality and features that are going to be available 4 or 5 months from now. So then working with companies like Scott and people that are here kind of show you exactly what they have in front of you is super key. And then these are the exact same tools that the state uses. Is the exact same tool. They use the exact same benefit, so might as well get on level with them and work with somebody like Scott. So.
We're talking about, go ahead, Brett.
Does everybody know what RFID means? Scott, do you maybe want to just break it down high level?
So RFID is radio frequency identification, and I could more than happy to show you, but these tags have these chips in them. If you hold them up to the light, you'll be able to see the inlay of the Metrc tags, whether it's package or plant, and this device is just picking it up. And RFID isn't a lot. If you go skiing, they use those in now your cards when you go down, so they can track how many miles or runs you did. I mean, RFID is even in the hotel keys when you go to, put your credit card or that little card they give you. So it's technology that's all over the place. If you guys are, on the highway, the trucks have them now that you'll notice if they missed like the weigh station. You'll see a big antenna right by those weigh stations, and they're tracking the truck. So it's not like it's new technology. It's just being able to piggyback off something that's moving or I don't have to physically touch. And that's where the RFID comes into place.
Great, thank you. Kat, popping over to you. Barcode habits. Talk to me inside a grow for plants, rooms, batches, and waste so teams don't fall behind.
A barcode habit, again, is having something, every single plant that you have from, I think, Minnesota's 4 inches and higher needs to have its metric tag, which is going to be a barcode. Having something like StashStock is going to be your godsend. Because when we're moving plants, let's say we're underneath a 4x4, right? We've got, in a 3-gallon, we've got 8 plants in there. We've got 5-gallon, maybe we've got, 5 plants in there. Anytime you shuffle things around to get them circulating and move things around, if you do not scan where it moved from, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So realizing that those barcodes, it also can fall off. I got a $100,000 fine in Michigan one time because my tag fell off. And I had no idea. So when they came in, they just pick a random number. And they're like, oh, can you find me, batch or barcode, da-da-da. And I'm in there with one of these going, I have no idea where it is. I have no idea where this plant is. And at that point, you look like an incompetent operator. So you will get fined if you can't find it. Little did I know, but then we had a plant without a tag on it. So we got fined without a tag. So having to make sure that you have this barcode consistently attached, it's kind of like inventory management too. So not only are you going to be doing inventory management, but also make sure that when you close at night or you're leaving your girls behind, make sure that every one of them is wearing their bow tie, right? Because that's what the tag is going to kind of look like. It's going to be this little thing hanging on them. Or if you're in there trimming, you're pruning, or whatever it is that you're doing, making sure that that tag is there, it is secure. right? And then taking it and making sure it passes along with the longevity of the plant. That is one of the most important things in my opinion, but always having something simple. Keeping things simple and to easy process while having something that Scott can provide has made our lives, in the last 15 years, light years ahead. I mean, imagine having a room full of 100 plants and having to each one individual, and you can now just like walk through.
Yeah, excellent, great. Let's just go quick hit. 5 SOPs that prevent most issues.
Ooh. I know I asked this question.
You were the one that asked this question.
I know, and I had
You
it
should
in
have
my
the
head.
answer.
But you know, at the end of the day, your biggest pitfalls are going to be making sure that you're not managing your plants correctly. So making sure that you have your SOPs, and one of them is your rooms, right? So every room is going to have a place. So if my plant is going from the bedroom into the flower room, and you have it matched incorrectly, and you didn't scan it to go into the flower room, and OCM comes in and you moved it, but it's not moved in Metrc. Metrc is going to be, I don't know if you guys have those like robots like that clean your floors and you can map where it goes. Metrc is kind of the same way. We have to have a vault has a number. So if things go from this room to this room, you need to make sure that that batch number is going along with it. So following your SOPs and saying, okay, and having a map of your room and saying, here's where everything is. The other thing is too, is compliance is key, no matter what. And even though we say that this is the same thing, compliance is going to be your master. When you are turning in everything to get your license, those SOPs are serious, okay? So making sure that every single one, security and compliance, your walkthroughs, cleanliness, your pest management control, all of those things are actually something that the OCM is going to ask you, and you're going to actually have to follow through. It's not something ChatGPT is going to make you. And if you don't know what that word is, they're like, oh, let's pull it up, and they ask you a question, you don't know what step 2 is because ChatGPT made it for you, you're going to be an incompetent operator. I'm sorry to say it. So really follow through with what you're doing. And if you don't want it, SOPs are simple. It's do this, this, and this. So I really don't have a top 5. I had one coming here, but I really want to emphasize the importance of SOPs. And actually, it is your roadmap to having an efficient operation.
And know them, like you're saying, right?
Right.
It's like, don't just have them and they go, just toss them in a binder, and then they sit there and they're fine.
Right.
No, you got to know that.
Right. And they're going
back.
to walk into a room. And they're going to say, do you have a binder for this room? And, how did you make this? Do you have an SOP for this? Do you have the SOP for what's inside this? And if you don't have that process.
Yeah, no, I would say that that's going to be very important, like Kat's saying. 10 years from now, if you're using the same SOPs and you have not updated them, that's exactly what the state agency is going to hold you down to. So everything that you have submitted, everything that is in writing, when you guys are going through that first 30 days that we're talking about, getting your license, make sure that everything is like you're spending the most amount of time. Spend a lot of time finding the head of compliance or your Metrc person once you've hired them and identifying them and training them, and then make sure beginning inventory and all SOPs are in a line, because we see this 10 years from now. Somebody's getting asked a question, a lot of staff has transitioned. Now I'm facing a $30,000 fine, or am I getting my license shut down for probably 30 days?
And the neat thing to that too is if you have turnover, which we're going to have, when you have an SOP in place, you can go get a new hire and hand it to them, and they're going to be able to do their job. So keeping it in line the way you're going to run your business is going to help.
I think to piggyback off of that, on the dispensary side, we always suggest to have a SOP audit tool to keeping your head of compliance disciplined to auditing all of the SOPs, because they build up. You're going to keep expanding and building on them as you continue to grow your business. So making sure that you're auditing your SOPs, because heaven forbid you lose your head of compliance, you need to be able to pass on that information to the next employee that's in charge. And I think you mentioned something important that's also similar on the dispensary side, the end of evening, like leaving checklist in terms of inventory, quick walkthrough, double check the tags. I think that's super important, not only just, for compliance purposes, but to set up the morning crew for success the next day.
All right, awesome. We got to keep rolling through. So this is the audience question of the Cultivation plus Inventory Tech segment. This is up for grabs. Outdoor tracking challenges, tag durability, interest in bulk batch tags for mature outdoor plants.
It's like 4 questions in there. You mind breaking it down one more time, and I'll
start at the top.
Yeah.
Let's just start with outdoor tracking challenges.
Yep. So I would say for outdoor tracking challenges, I mean, somebody like Scott would be your best partner, right? Just to be able to track plants all from a one, like we're saying, just walk around to your entire canopy and figure out, do I have 100% of my tags in here? Am I missing? Do I have 95%? It's going to be a pretty big portion of it. And then when you're talking about the metric durability tags, I mean, if you do run into any issues, please come talk to me. They should last at the very least 10 months outdoors.
Okay, and go ahead, Scott.
I was going to add that on the outdoor side, you see them where the tag will slip because the plant's not thick enough, the stalk isn't, the branches aren't thick enough, so it slips, and over time it gets covered by mud or whatever, debris, and you can't scan it. So a lot of times we'll see people that put stakes up and have the tag kind of represent that plant, and once it gets bigger, then you'll put it up higher, and then you'll be able to, because again, I don't want to just pound on the RFID, but it does have a 20-foot range, and it can read through the plants. So that's why the RFID comes in hand in situations like that. So, but I can't remember the rest of the questions.
The last piece was interest in bulk batch tags for mature outdoor plants. I'm not sure if that's a question.
That is a fun question for Metrc. We do have similar models like that out in Oregon and in Maine. So I encourage you guys to spend a little bit more time just kind of reading how they've gotten to those decisions. Those are decisions that are made by the state agency and not something that we make in terms of configuring rules and regulations for the state. Like Metrc just molds itself to what the state allows. So if you guys do want to see some sort of bulk packaging or bulk tagging anywhere, that would be a great conversation for the state agency and to get to that decision together.
All right. Well, everyone, please put your hands together and thank Kat and Scott.
Can I take a picture?
Huh?
Can I take a picture?
Yeah, let's take a picture. You're going to take a picture up here? Everybody say, hey, Scott's taking a picture.
Woo, Scott.
Thank you.
Put it up on that social media game. Tag us all. All right, I'm going to have Kat, I'm going to have you and Scott. You're going to pop. I'm going to bring in two new homies. I'm going to bring in Munir Haque of Curate, the president of Curate. And then I would also like to invite up Gus Sevastos from Dutchie. Give him a round of applause. Come on up here. Come on. Yeah. Gus, you go here, dog. Sick. Great. All right, this section is going to be about IT stack plus retail ops. But first, I got to give these two gents their mics and give us a little intro, who you are, what you're all about. Gus, you start, dog.
All right. Hi, everybody. Some of you might be familiar with me. Some of you, it might be your first time seeing me off of Zoom. I'm Gus Sevastos. I'm with Dutchie. I've been here since 2021. I have been helping operators all over the country get set up. New markets that are coming online, like completely like Minnesota, where we have a lot of new operators, markets that have been established, making the conversion to adult use sales, also like what Minnesota's doing. So I have a wealth of experience like some of the other folks up here, and happy to answer any questions, happy to help, happy to be an open resource to all y'all, and excited to talk with some of you if we haven't met, and continue working with you if we're already working together.
Sweet. All right, Munir, hit us.
Hey, all. I love how this plant brings all these beautiful people together. Give you guys a round of applause. This is awesome. Like Brytany mentioned, I'm a California boy in the cold. I love it here. This is my favorite state so far. We've had the honor to help almost every state except Alabama get started, and because Alabama's on hold. But this has been so much fun. I met Stephen 2.5 years ago, maybe. He was bringing everyone together and celebrating hemp, and we were waiting for cannabis to move. And now we're here. So a little bit about me. Like Brytany mentioned, I built the first store with her in Manitoba 7, 8 something years ago. We are hundreds of stores in. We do the IT security, all the compliance stuff, the network. We make everything work. If it turns on and off, somehow we touch that, and we keep it compliant.
All right, let's dive into it. Again, this is the IT stack plus retail ops. Gus, I'm going to start with you. Why strong metric integrations matter across POS and cultivation tools?
Yeah, I think Kat was really touching on that when she was just up here. But basically, if you don't have compliance, the one thing you do have is problems, right? And to a better adage, and Luis, I think you'll agree with this. If it's not a metric, it didn't happen, right?
Correct.
So with that, you want to make sure whatever systems you're using, whether that's a StashStock, whether that's a Dutchie or some of the other folks that are out there, you want to make sure that there's a strong integration with Metrc and that it's reporting those things for you. Like this should be something where the system is aligned with Metrc, almost working hand in hand, because you're not going to remove the need for a state tracking system in a regulated space. It's just kind of, I think I heard somebody say, unfortunately we have to do the rules. I think, Kat, that might have been you. Like, you have to follow the rules, right? And like, we have to kind of play the game and make sure that we're, on everything. And getting a system that helps you do that makes that easier for you guys, so that it's more, oh, is my system working as it should? And these things are reporting over to Metrc versus, okay, here's all these 20 extra things I have to do myself, and then make sure that they all report into Metrc.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it absolutely right. If you guys don't have a system that has a strong integration with Netflix now, with Metrc, one day maybe all together, owned by everyone. If it doesn't have a strong integration with Metrc, right, that you guys are potentially going to be out of hundreds of thousands of dollars or a compliance like Kat was mentioning, just because whether we like it or not, the state is going to say Metrc is your source of truth.
Munir, talk to me about getting the network right early.
Yeah, so every facility has this really nice looking sexy box in the back that runs your facility. And unfortunately, it's something that a lot of operators miss or forget about. So it's really important when you're picking a space, and you're going to have a lot of compliance, right? Like what room's going to be what the doors are going to be like, where are their hallways, how am I going to secure this? But you also have to remember you have to secure this network, and you need some space. And with weather like this, it needs to be a room that can breathe. But along with that, there's a lot of things that go along with having a secure network. So say you're a dispensary, right? One of the common mistakes is folks wait the very last minute to order their internet, right? The internet's going to power everything. And as you're building your dispensary, you're picking your POS station, you're deciding, I want 4 POS stations, I want hardware, I want TVs, I'm going to have telephones. All this stuff is adding up, and you have to build your network to be able to support that, because it could work fine on a Monday afternoon, when you got like 4 or 5 people in the room, but it's not going to work the same on Friday in the evening or a holiday. So sizing your network and talking to somebody, if you're not familiar with this, to do that for you, it's very, very important.
So even just for me, from a layman's term, I'm thinking about it from like when we talk about network, we use that word, right? But we're actually even going deeper into what is like your bandwidth, your upload speeds, your download speeds, making sure everything that's running inside of that building can handle all of your, machines, your credit cards, your phone lines, everything, right? It's all running off that same network. So you have to have an early but powerful network in order to do what you need.
100%, and it doesn't have to be like a gig up, a gig down. You really just need to understand how much you have in the store utilizing that network. But also another thing, failover. Say your primary internet goes down, right? You got all this stuff. You got to report to Metrc, and your primary internet's down. Technically, if your internet's down and you can't transact and your cameras are offline, you have to close. So you also got to think about what a failover looks like. A failover might not run your music and run all your tech, but it can help you transact and still keep reporting to Metrc. And, to dig in a little bit deeper to that, the cybersecurity side of it, I'm a big believer that kid in his bedroom who's hacking Target is going to at some point go mess with cannabis. And you have to have a secure network, and in IT terms, we call them VLANs. And what it means is you have to separate everything. So your POS is on one, network, virtual network. Your security is on another virtual network. Your staff on their break that's, checking their emails on another network. If one should happen to hurt, then it would not affect the other one. So, this is where really consulting in a good IT security team is I think very crucial. And it's a conversation that needs to happen early on.
All right, thanks. Luis, I'm going to dismiss you quick. Luis is going to go take care of his business. Gus, I'm going to you. What to look for when evaluating Metrc integrations in retail systems?
It's a great question, and I think kind of like piggybacking off of what you were saying, Munir, about like internet infrastructure, security, all that stuff, right? You have to think about that integration with Metrc as another interlocking piece with that. So what we're doing in our system when somebody's making a transaction, it's not just that, and Luis is going to agree with me, so I'm just volleying this one to him, and everybody knows that he's saying yes. But with this, they don't just want to know, when the OCM asks you, hey, tell me about your sales data, they just want to know, like, hey, actually, we're crushing it. Actually, everything's very good. Thank you for asking, right? They want to know that you sold 1 gram of Maui Wowie to John Smith on the 17th at 6 p.m., and that 1 gram came from package 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Your point of sale system should be working with that to make sure all those things are being reported in the order they need to be reported in. Another thing to think about that too, we talk about multiple packages. You guys are going to have let's just say a couple different packages of the same brand of edibles or of the same strain of pre-packed flower from the same cultivator, right? You want a system that is associating the proper tag to the proper scan, and then you also want a system that's going to help you with the first in, first out, kind of mentality to getting your product out the door. This way, we're not just selling anything from whatever somebody grabbed. We can kind of force it so that we are moving the older inventory first, and then we are selling the new inventory once that's been sold through. So there's a lot of different steps at each level that your system should be integrating with Metrc. Same as talking about plants moving from room to room, right? When you make those inventory moves, you want to make sure that your system is telling Metrc, hey, this was over here, now it's over here, right? All that is very important because, again, it goes back to compliance fees, and those are not fun, those are not good, and we want to avoid those at any and all costs.
Epic. Thanks, Doug. Munir, we already talked about network, which that's obviously going to be an easy answer to this question, which is one costly mistake to avoid. So what's a different one than besides setting up that network early?
So when you're thinking about, your network and all the items that you need to think about your security cameras, your walls, how many walls are you going to have, how many rooms, what does it look like? Because you have to add compliance to that, right? So if you're not thinking about that, that is a costly mistake, because I'll give you an idea in construction. So the GCs are going to start going the moment you tell them to go, right? And they're following their timeline, which is get the frames up and then get the walls and then paint them this beautiful blue, right? But if you have not thought about your network and how many cameras and all that, you're going to have to break those walls to rerun the cables when you figure oh crap, I'm not compliant in this room. I need 2 more cameras. So that's a very big costly mistake to avoid, is start thinking about your security, your network, your doors, everything that you need for compliance in the beginning before you actually start your build out.
And I'm just going to build on that on the dispensary side with your point of sale. If in advance to receiving your first shipment, you can sort of map out where hypothetically you're going to put all of your product in your vault, but also your digital vaults in the back end of your point of sale, and kind of pre-planning based on the amount of SKUs you have. And for example, your high, not necessarily your high total revenue SKUs like flour, but your high touch point unit SKUs, you want that super easily accessible because you're going to be touching it all the time. So having a map and a guide and a plan before you receive that inventory, and talking to your Dutchie rep to kind of walk through the back end vault setup will save you a ton of time, rather than if you just rogue receive, don't really set everything up, put it on the shelves, and have to move everything around from vault to vault at the end. So I definitely think measure twice, cut once when you're receiving your first inventory, and reach out, chat with Metrc, chat with your point of sale company, just to spend the extra time for your first delivery you're receiving.
There's, just to piggyback off of what Brytany does too, is another costly mistake to avoid is you need to make sure all of your trades and your vendors are talking to each other. Because something I'm starting to notice is, okay, so you might hire, let's just talk about security IT. You might hire somebody that does both security and IT, and that's cool because they're going to be that one neck to choke, right? Or you might split that. You might hire an IT company, a security company, which is fine too. But those two need to be best friends. And those two need to be best friends with the GC, because what happens is they give you your shopping list of everything you need to buy, and if they're not communicating, there's overlap. And another big important thing in Minnesota is that the battery backup, right? And I'm starting to see people just assuming, oh, that vendor's going to provide it, or that vendor's going to provide it, but nobody's talking, and it comes to OCM time, and it's like, crap, where are my batteries? You know, and that's not a fast, easy thing to fix.
All right, we're going to go to the audience questions that came in. Gus, this one's for you. Status and best practice for Ready ID integration with Tribal Metrc and Dutchie.
I think it's a great question. I think Luis probably has some things we can talk about for the process here, but I know that we have ways of just adding that inventory to the system, and then you're getting that from the tribal vendor, you can add that into the system, and then those sales are reporting through to Metrc. So I think there's some unique challenges that come along with it, but I know that Dutchie, Metrc, OCM, and other operators are working to make sure once like that fully formed solution is pushed out, like that is done there. But we have some ways that we can help like get those things in now in the short term while we're working through that. So
yeah, piggybacking on that, I mean, as I think we were talking about, and I'd raise my voice too, as people are making jokes over there, they've been very funny. You know, it's important that you guys do the external transfers, right, for intake from the tribal into the Metrc loop, closed loop. And then in the next couple of months, again, we're going to have that functionality that's just going to be like a regular transfers. So hopefully that'll make everybody's process a little bit easier in the future.
All right, Munir, this one's for you. Audience question was mobile-friendly workflow and on-the-go backup when scanners or laptops are not available.
Yeah, so a failover. So I prefer the failover to go through the network, and a smart network will see primary just went down. I got to switch over to failover, and it will already know, okay, registers 1 and 2 are my go-to, you know, these printers are working. So you can configure that ahead of time so you're not freaking out. You know, I have seen in, you know, a crisis moment where folks don't have failovers, they run and get a hotspot off their phone and they get one POS station running. I will say what happens when you do that is a lot of things break because it's now on this mobile network that's not talking to anything else, and it might not report to Metrc. So a lot of things break. So I would advise not to do that, but 100% yes, a failover.
Great. Excellent. Can everybody put their hands together? Round of applause for Munir and Gus. Thanks, guys. All right, next I'm going to invite up my new friend. Just met in real life today. I have Betsy Morem, from a co-founder of Morem & Waller. She's a CPA, and she's co-founder. And, Kat, I want you to come back up, too. Come on, get off your damn phone. Get over here. This is the finance. Yeah, I know, right? Get off your phone, Ma. This is the finance and controls section. Betsy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell the people what you're all about.
Hi, everybody. Betsy Morem with Morem & Waller CPAs. So we've been in the cannabis space for about 5 years. We provide bookkeeping, controller, and tax preparation work to the industry. And we're Minnesota-based. So I live in southern Minnesota. My business partner, he's in Minneapolis. So we've serviced clients across the country in those 5 years, but obviously very excited to be servicing more clients in Minnesota and to see more of my clients in real life versus just over Zoom all the time.
I love it. Well, thanks for being here. Really, really appreciate it. We're going to kick it right in. Betsy, why reconciling Metrc to the accounting system is more than compliance?
So your inventory, which needs to match your, say, point of sale, for example, for Dutchie, is going to affect your inventory balance on your financials. And in our industry, we have to account for things a certain way. So anytime we buy inventory, we can't just cost it right away. We have to wait until it's sold. So that inventory sits on your balance sheet, and then once you sell it, then you can actually deduct the COGS. And of course, your COGS affects your gross margin, which affects your tax liability, which I think we're all waiting to hear if there's going to be some news tomorrow on rescheduling to see how that impacts the taxation side of things. But regardless, you still want to have solid financials. And so it's really important that, you know, all those systems match.
Excellent. Talk to me more about common accounting mistakes when Metrc is not tied to the books.
So things that I've seen is if like Metrc isn't integrated with another system is say you, so I think someone had mentioned making sure that you received, Brytany, was that you? Making sure that you're correctly or promptly receiving inventory into say a system like Dutchie. So we've seen it where we've seen that there's been a receipt in Metrc, but the inventory is not in Dutchie, and so we're wondering what happened to that invoice. And sometimes the answer is, oh, you know, we actually received it 2 days later than when we put it into the system 2 days after we received it. And so why that's important is because from an accounting perspective, we're looking at the inventory as of a certain date. So, for example, what is the inventory value as of 12/31? So we need to be able to verify that inventory value so that we can verify COGS. And I forget what the original question was, but yeah, some of the most common.
Yeah, common accounting mistakes. Yep, when the Metrc isn't tied to your books.
And what also, well, I'll say as well is that us accountants, we really love source documentation. And so anytime you receive inventory, you should have an invoice for that inventory, of course, which should be in your system like Dutchie, and then that can be we want that put into the accounting system as well. So that way we have verifiable data that can back up all the transactions that have occurred.
All right. And feel free. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Lucy.
just to
jump in.
To add on that one really quickly, this is kind of a very tricky position for you guys as licensees to have to deal with, because not only you're being regulated by the OCM, but also the tax agency that collaborates with the OCM. So making sure that you have somebody that has your back or having your books very up to date is going to save you like heartache and troubles, because as the OCM can also shut you down, then the tax agency can put penalties on your income. So there's going to be really, really important to have that. And fun fact, Metrc was also created by an accountant. So this is why Metrc looks and feels the way that it does. So we're trying to make it better and easier for everyone.
Well, thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. I did not pay him in advance to say that.
Let's talk about source of truth for inventory and why.
Yeah, I've heard that mentioned a couple times. So Metrc will absolutely be the source of truth. So say in the event of an audit, whether it be a state audit or whether the IRS comes knock on your door, we want to be able to have all the information tied back to what's in Metrc.
Talk to me about one, or maybe there's more than one, but let's go with one high ROI control to implement now.
Yeah, certainly getting the good habit of receiving inventory into the system, as soon as you get it, not letting it sit. And then I would also say physical inventory counts. So that's something that we ask of our clients is we can't just rely on information that's in one system. We need to also have a physical count to back up that information. So in a perfect world, we'd be getting physical counts monthly, but we also live in a real world. And so I would say at a minimum quarterly, at a very, very, very minimum, I would say annually, because, ultimately to stay in compliant for your tax return, we need to make sure that everything is good on an annual basis, but we'd love to see it accurate on a monthly basis, because I always tell people, obviously it's important that you stay compliant from a tax perspective, but you also want to have really good financials so that you can make sound business decisions. So you want to be able to look at your income statement, for example, on a month-to-month basis to kind of see the trends. So it's not just about the compliance aspect, but also whether 280E goes away, whatever happens, you still want to have good, solid financials that you can use as a tool to better run your business.
I have another question for you that's kind of building off of that, and it's a mistake I find new operators make right off the jump is employees not putting in the correct cost, specifically usually for accessories at the beginning, because maybe you will get your first bulk order at a wholesaler at 10% off. So the individual puts the cost that's on the invoice into your point of sale, but then they're not taking into consideration that the owner actually got like a bulk 10% off. And on the product side of things, eventually when there's pay-to-play deals, having those kickbacks and how you suggest to track, any of those within the point of sale as well.
Just as far as like what the best practice would be, or how to.
Yeah, and especially to avoid causing mistakes down the road if you have to go back and reconcile when you realize that they were getting discounts and it wasn't correctly indicated in like the cost of the unit.
Yeah. So again, that's why that source documentation is so important, because I mean, that doesn't exactly solve how it's getting put into the system necessarily, but from a receiving inventory perspective, we want to make sure that on the accounting side, if it's an invoice for, if they're showing you receive 5,000 in inventory, that the invoice says 5,000. So I think it all starts from what your area of expertise is having really good processes in place, because we certainly have seen that issue before where people are entering in the wrong cost into the system. And sometimes where we catch that is if the margins are super off, or if they're changing significantly from month to month. And sometimes that's for a reason, because maybe you're getting a bulk deal. But yeah, it's little things like that that sort of compile over time and can cause bigger issues.
All right, we're on to the audience question. Talk to me, Betsy, about routine. This is all about routine reconciliation rhythm. So how to stay audit ready between reconciliations?
And are we talking, do we know if we're talking just between Metrc and?
I don't have that for you. I know nothing. I just read the question off the thing.
I would say
you know what? Answer it in multiple ways. Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, from an operations perspective, and you can probably speak more to this, is just kind of getting in the habit of making sure that you're reconciling your inventory. And then what we'll do on the accounting side is that we will actually do a monthly reconciliation of the system. So that's when we'll take a look at Metrc versus, I keep using Dutchie as an example, but it's an easy example, to make sure that those two records tie. And then also getting in the habit of, if there's spoilage theft, making sure that that's properly recorded in both systems, and then that there's proper documentation as well, because that does affect us from an accounting side as well, and how we reduce inventory due to things like spoilage and theft.
Great. Does anybody have anything else to add in any of these? In that? Luis, good? Rock and roll?
Actually,
I knew Brit.
It's not necessarily on the compliance side of things, but more so on, setting yourself up for success operationally and having your accountant not pull their hair out 10 months in after they realize what you've done. But a lot of times what I find is new dispensary operators will want to give away a lot of marketing swag at the beginning. So let's say they get, 2,000 lighters or papers with their branding on it. Figuring out right off the jump what you want your system to be. Are you going to completely separate that invoice from your dispensary altogether and have that expense not even run through the doors? Or are you going to receive it and then, put it through the till as like a couple dollars so that it's at least tracked in there? Keep in mind your margins are going to be affected at the end of the year when you're looking at your margins if you're cashing things out at like a couple bucks and it was $2,000. So talking to your accountant to figure out what the best way they suggest to track those like giveaway promotional items on the accessory side is super important. Also, even on the employee uniform side, because sometimes people will order bulk uniforms, they'll receive them in their point of sale because they want to sell them also to customers, but they're just adjusting the inventory rather than actually cashing it through. So making sure you're talking to your accountant to figure out what the best practice is in that right off the jump.
That's a great ad.
Thanks, Britt. All right, everyone, we've made it to the lightning round. Starting with Kat. Ready, Kat? Right. One change you will make this week to reduce errors.
I will this week.
They. You, yes, but okay. They as in like could be doing this week.
This week to reduce
that can
errors.
help reduce errors. Go.
I don't even know. I mean, in all honesty, what you could do at one thing right now this week is make sure that you have your workflow tidy, that you know exactly what's coming in and coming out. Making sure that, that is going to be your biggest pitfall, is not knowing where something is. And so you know where everything is at every single time. So starting today, if you're not open, making sure that you have that workflow, looking at if it's a graph or however you're going to do your day-to-day operations, you have it set down, because every day is going to get really, really fucking busy. And you're going to get so tired, take this way, go this way, and you're going to miss your metric reconciling. You're going to miss all these things. So get your organization done now. So when your doors open, you have time to focus on building your business, and you can fall back on what that cheat sheet looks like so you can operate smoothly.
Brittany, same question.
And when in doubt, call Cat.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, measure twice, cut once. That's my first. But second would be to really think about where you're going to allocate your budget. And oftentimes, money is running tight right before open. So a lot of the really important last mile finishing touches don't get priority and are kind of pushed to the side. Invest in your people and your processes. That will 100% set you up for long-term success. So just that's kind of some food for thought on my end. Really take some time to figure out who you're going to bring on as your team, and as owner-operators, learn as much as you can as well, because like we kind of all mentioned up here, turnover is extremely high on the dispensary side, but in cannabis in general. So make sure that you have a good understanding of your business and how it operates. It also really decreases internal theft.
Louis, same thing from your vantage point, man. What's one thing to implement or change so you don't run into errors?
If you're not in Metrc yet, take advantage of the Metrc YouTube channel. Some of the videos are outdated, but we'll actually show you exactly like a preview into Metrc, so you're not scared the very first time that you see it. If you are in Metrc, use the sandbox to test out new workflows, new SOPs, new everything. It's a make it until you break it system. Play around with it, and it'll reset every night at 24 hours. So the sandbox is really your place to, how do I bring this, can I do this transfer, can I do this thing? Just do it in the sandbox. You're completely covered in your production environment, and you're not impacted right away.
Betsy?
I would say don't treat accounting as an afterthought. I know it's kind of the thing that people don't love to spend money on because it feels like it's something that you're not going to get a return out of, but I promise that you will. Because it's much more costly to, say, send your information to an accountant in January and have them fix all your errors. Plus, also treat your accountant as your business partner in terms of, this is the person that's going to help me understand not just how do I comply from a tax perspective, but how is my business doing? What do we need to change? How are our margins looking on specific product lines? And we're much more than just bean counters, is what I'm saying.
Luis, Metrc silver bullet.
Yeah, I don't think there's one necessarily silver bullet, but I would just make sure documentation is your ally. Make sure that you are tracking, that you are entering notes. If something happens, the first thing the state is going to do is take a look at whether you enter notes in the system. And if you did, that's your immediate evidence of, hey, I wasn't trying to skirt the system or do anything around it. I'm actually collaborating. I just happened to make a mistake. Support tickets are your friend. 10 years from now, when an angry employee made a mess in your license and then that comes up later with the OCM, those Metrc support tickets are going to be your fail-safe and are going to be your get-out-of-jail-free card.
Kat, not a silver bullet for Metrc, but Metrc nonetheless. What's one thing over all of your years of experience that you literally pulled your ACE card out of your back pocket and you were like, fuck yeah, I got to tell other people about this?
Ooh. I mean, there's
a lot. There's a lot, right?
Yeah,
There's not just one thing.
One thing
I follow
that I'm like, fuck yes. Oh, God. I mean, I would say my genetics. When I see them grow up and I get to find that keeper, that's my fuck yeah moment. I'm sorry it has nothing to do with operations and how to run and grow, but I mean, the twinkle in their eyes and they sparkle, and I love my girls. And when you come up with a new genetic and then you get to name her and you get to smell her and you get to, and then she gets passed around and you get to meet people that tell you stories about how they have helped you and they have turned your life around. And, learning, especially, I'm the godmother of Gorilla Glue, and hearing the stories from people that what she has done for so many people is my fuck yeah moment. I love what she has done for every one of you, and I hope she continues to do that.
I love that. Cheers to you. Britt, what are you going to fly your flag? What would be the one thing that you would fly your flag on?
Easy. One of the first dispensaries I used to manage, on a bad day, we were doing $80,000 a day. On a good day, about 1,300 square feet. So less is more. Make money. I'm not saying open a cheap store and slap some TVs on a wall, but be intentional where you spend your money. You don't need to be the biggest, the baddest. Case in point, I opened Drake and Forte's store. Probably none of you knew that they had a store, so it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Sometimes if there's a celebrity even attached to something, it's your people, it's your processes, it's your crew that you keep on and build your business with you, and you don't need, a big, massive square foot. We had 1,300 square feet, and we were doing 100K a day. So just be intentional with how you spend your money at the beginning, and as you scale and start to bring in revenue and the market starts to level it out, then you can be a little bit more creative and start spending on certain, things that you really wanted to, like a custom art piece or, a special marble slab that's flown in from Italy, or a fish tank with exotic fish all over that are flown in, which are beautiful but costly to maintain and upkeep. So that is what I will say to the death.
Betsy, what's the magic? What's the magic dust that we got to sprinkle on this?
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
From your vantage point, what's the magic dust? What's the little magic baggie of dust that you're going to give these humans to take away with them from your vantage point in the
Oh gosh.
We probably already said it, right? We've mentioned a lot of things here tonight, but from your vantage point, what's one thing that?
I would just say, get your accountant hired, have them get your systems in place, and then honestly, it should be quiet from there. In my world, it's like the less excitement, the better, right? But I think the thing that I'll hang my hat on is just that we're extremely communicative, and so I hear of sometimes people not being able to get a hold of their accountants for weeks, and that's the thing that the feedback that we get is that oh my gosh, I can't believe how quickly you responded. So find an accountant that will communicate well with you and get you timely financials. You really, really do need that, and just find a good partner.
I love it. Communication.
Did I answer your question? I don't know if I did.
Yeah,
okay.
You did. Communication is number one. I love it. I preach that in so many more ways than just like business, right? Communication is number one in any relationship with your spouse, your partner, your husband, your wife, your whatever it might be, your friends, your family, your children, right? And then in business, your colleagues and all these people in these rooms and these vendors and these brands and these companies and organizations, communication. What's Stephen Eigenmann tell me? Do business with people that fucking call you back. So guess what? I make sure to call his ass back every time he calls. Or I just pick up the damn phone. I want to bring, let's give a round of applause to all these vendors and all these brands and all these speakers. I want to bring Stephen up here. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Luis coming out, everybody coming out. I love it. Stephen's going to close it up for us, mention our sponsors, and then tell you about what's in the future for Canna Connect.
Oh, yeah. These panelists have been great. They're all here for the rest of the night. If somebody struck a positive chord with you, find them, give them your card, ask them for their card. They're here to serve you. But we wouldn't have been able to do this event without two other brands that played a large role tonight. So shout out to Canna Planners if you're looking for website, SEO marketing. Ryan is in the building. We fucked up his table, so he doesn't really have a good table, but he's got a banner in the back. Ryan, if you're listening, raise your hand. Ryan from Canna Planners is here. The venue, though, how about this venue? This is Steady Pour. This is Earl Giles Canna Club. And we got a big lift from another Ryan. Ryan Rosenfeld is here from Vangst. Shout out to Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Vangst took care of the venue. Shout out to Vangst. If you need HR, if you need staffing, talk to Ryan. Ryan will be here all night. But what about Earl Giles, huh? Earl Giles, shout out to Earl Giles. Every Wednesday from 5 to 9. Earl Giles Canna Club, it's been running almost 2 years now. We love Earl Giles. We love Earl Giles so much, we're making a beverage with Earl Giles. We're launching it at Lucky Leaf. Lucky Leaf After Party going down February 27th. Earl Giles all night long. It's going to be wild. If you like what we did, just wait till you see what we do in February. I'll be here all night. Spencer will be here all night. The whole team's here. Grab a card, ask us. Let's get in touch. Let's keep building this Minnesota cannabis industry. Thank you. And we still got food. We'll clean up the chairs. Stick around. Let's network. Let's grow. Let's build. You guys need each other. We all need each other. Let's keep it rolling.